White woman gives birth to a black baby. Then her husband sees him and burst into tears. The room fell silent the moment the baby cried. Not the soft, delayed cry doctors worry about, but strong, full-throated wail that filled every corner of the maternity ward. The nurse smiled. The doctor gave a nod. And Emily Parker, drenched in sweat and emotion, reached her arms out in pure instinct. She had waited for this moment for 7 years. Miscarriages, hormone shots, IVF rounds, prayers whispered through sobs, all leading here. But as they placed the newborn in her arms, the world tilted because the baby boy, her baby, had skin the color of deep bronze, soft black curls on his head, and rich dark eyes that didn't match either parent. Emily blinked. The doctor hesitated, his gloved hands hovering. The nurse coughed gently, and Emily's husband, Jonathan, went silent. They stared. Jonathan, white, blue-eyed, blonde-bearded, took one step back from the bed. His lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Emily looked up at him. "John," she said. Her voice trembled. "I don't." He didn't yell. He didn't scream, but tears brimmed in his eyes. And then he turned and walked out of the delivery room. Emily clutched the baby tighter, her whole body shaking. Micah. That was the name they had agreed on. Micah Elijah Parker. A name spoken with love for months. A name stitched on baby blankets, scribbled in journals, whispered in late-night nursery painting sessions. And now the world looked at her like she was a liar. The hours that followed were brutal. Jonathan's parents didn't come to visit. Emily's best friend, who had flown in from Boston, left early. A nurse, who once called her honey, now avoided eye contact. Rumors always move faster than facts, and no one asked questions. They just assumed. Even Emily questioned herself. Could there have been a mix-up? Had something happened that she didn't understand? She began mentally replaying every moment of her pregnancy like a crime scene, grasping for something that made sense, but nothing explained it. She had never been unfaithful. She had never even wanted anyone else. Micah was her miracle, her joy, her impossible second chance at motherhood. But now he was also her undoing. That night, alone in her hospital bed, Emily cradled Micah and whispered, "You didn't do anything wrong, baby. I don't know what's happening, but I love you no matter what anyone says." Micah blinked slowly in her arms and yawned. His skin was warm. His breath was steady. He didn't need answers. He just needed love. The next morning, the door creaked open. Emily turned sharply, expecting a nurse, but it was Jonathan. His eyes were puffy, his hair disheveled. He looked like he hadn't slept at all. In his hand was a folded envelope, and in the other, a new blue onesie. He walked slowly to her side, eyes fixed on the baby. "Can I hold him?" he asked. Emily hesitated, then nodded. He took Micah gently in his arms. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then his voice cracked. "He looks like my grandfather." Emily stared. Jonathan sat down beside her, opened the envelope, and handed her a printed page. It was a DNA report rushed through a private testing service the night before. "I needed to know," he said softly. "I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think. I didn't want to accuse you, but I was losing my mind." She nodded slowly, still speechless. "And it turns out," he continued, "he's mine." The world stopped. Emily grabbed the report and read it line by line. Paternal match 99.9987%. Biological parent confirmed. Jonathan Parker. She looked at him in disbelief. "But how?" Jonathan let out a long breath. "I called my aunt," he said. "The one in Georgia, the family historian. I told her about Micah, and she went quiet. Then she told me something I had never heard before." He looked down at Micah, voice low. "My great-grandfather was black. Back in the 1940s, Jonathan's great-grandfather had married a white woman and passed as white to escape the segregationist South. The truth was buried, literally. Photos were destroyed, birth certificates altered. Over generations, the family line blended. But now, through the miracle of genes and the clarity of Micah's skin, the past had returned. Jonathan kissed Micah's forehead. "You brought the truth back." Emily wiped her tears. "You really believe me?" He looked at her like she was the only person in the world. "I never stopped." Emily couldn't stop staring at the paper. DNA doesn't lie, and neither had she. For the first time in nearly 48 hours, the lump in her throat dissolved into something new. Relief. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't a liar. And she hadn't imagined the bond they'd built during pregnancy. Micah really was theirs. But what haunted her more than the doubt was the silence. Not just Jonathan's silence, but the silence of generations. They sat side by side on the hospital bed. Micah slept peacefully in Jonathan's arms, his tiny fingers curled into a fist over his father's shirt. Jonathan looked down, brushing the baby's cheek with the back of his finger. "I never knew," he said quietly. "Never suspected. I mean, my whole life. We were just white. That's what we were told. My grandfather, he passed when I was 8. I don't remember much. He was always distant, kept to himself." Emily placed her hand on his. "Your aunt told you everything." He nodded. Said the family hid it, said it was dangerous back then, that they were scared. He moved up north, changed his name, and just blended. Started over. A pause. Micah brought the truth back. They returned home 3 days later. The whispers hadn't stopped. Neighbors who once smiled at them now looked confused. A few coworkers reached out with polite curiosity. But there were still glances at the grocery store, comments under photos, online strangers questioning the story. But Jonathan no longer needed their approval. He'd seen the truth in Micah's eyes. And now he wanted to see the truth behind his own. A month later, Jonathan took a leave from work. They packed up their car and drove to Georgia, where his aunt lived and where the family history had gone silent for decades. She greeted them on the porch, arms open, eyes full of tears. "I never thought I'd see the day," she whispered as she held Micah. Inside, she opened photo albums, dusty, brittle, full of secrets. One photo stopped Jonathan cold. A young man in a pressed vest, strong jaw, broad nose, deep-set eyes. "Who's that?" he asked. His aunt sighed. "Your great-grandfather Samuel." Jonathan looked from the photo to Micah. Same cheeks, same forehead, same intensity. Micah wasn't just his son. He was a mirror to a past they'd erased. In the months that followed, Jonathan and Emily dug deeper. They traced Samuel's roots to a once thriving black community in Mississippi. They learned about his brilliance, his poetry, and how he'd been denied university admission because of his race, even though he had top scores. They uncovered newspaper clippings, handwritten journals, and a preserved church registry. Emily wept, reading a letter from Samuel to his children, urging them to live full, even if you must live hidden. But Micah gave them permission to be seen again. When Micah turned 1, Emily and Jonathan hosted a dedication ceremony, not religious, but symbolic. They stood under a tree in a local park, surrounded by both their families. Jonathan read aloud a letter to our son. "You carry the colors of our past and the brilliance of our future. You are not a mistake. You are not a scandal. You are a legacy. The living truth that love remembers what history forgets." Micah began to grow into himself, curious, determined, quick to smile. He loved books, blocks, and old jazz records Jonathan's aunt gifted them. As he grew older, they never hid the truth. They showed him pictures of Samuel, taught him about the strength of those who came before, and celebrated the skin he was born in, the hands that made him, and the heart that held 2 histories in one. Emily returned to teaching part-time. Jonathan published a memoir titled "The Baby That Made Me Remember." It became a bestseller not because it was scandalous, but because it was honest. People reached out from all over the world. Some told similar stories. Others admitted they had once judged, but now they understood. Micah was 5 years old when he asked, "Why did people look sad when I was born?" Emily knelt beside him. "They weren't sad about you, baby. They were sad because they didn't know who they were yet, but you helped us remember." Today, their story is shared in classrooms about identity, legacy, and what it means to be family beyond appearance. Micah, the boy who once shocked a delivery room, now shines on stages, school plays, and storytelling nights. And every time his laughter fills a space, it drowns out generations of silence. Because love never needed proof, just a chance to speak. And a little boy with deep brown eyes finally gave a voice. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales. And let us know in the comments where in the world are you watching from. We love hearing from all of you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious,